1. Welcome into another episode of Betting the Pitch NFL Edition. I'm your host, _G Warner, alongside my co-host, Andrew Schnicker, _SCHNITKER on Twitter. Tough last name to spell, but you should learn how to spell it because we went 2-0 last week in our best bets. How was your weekend, Andy?
Oh, it was a great weekend. This was the best weekend I've had so far.
Wow.
We talked on Monday, and we were debating a play, and I was like, I'm not going to ruin this weekend with a bet this weekend on Monday.
Well, I mean, you can't mess with perfection. So 2-0 brings our podcast record to 6-3-1 this season, which is a really nice 67% if you are into rounding. So I think it's now time for us to figure out how we're going to get to 75%, which is the goal coming up. And so stick around, make sure you hang around. We're going to do a 6-pack of NFL games on Tuesday night when we're recording, which should give you an idea where lines are going to move, what we're potentially looking forward to on Thursday, Sunday, Monday night lines potentially. And then also at the end, we'll have our best bets, and then we'll get out of here. We're doing a 6-pack. We're going to do the major games. So Thursday night, we got a Sunday London matchup again, and then we got Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football, and then 2 of our own choices. So let's get into it, and I'll start with the Thursday Night Football game, which I actually will be in attendance for. Denver Broncos visiting the Kansas City Chiefs. It opened a minus 10-point favorite, the Chiefs at home, with a total of 51, and it has climbed to 10.5, and the total has dropped to 47.5. I think a lot to do with Travis Kelce and his injury, despite returning in a second half from a sprained ankle or high ankle sprain. Good chance he does not play in this one, but I haven't seen him ruled out just yet.
Yeah, too early to tell. I mean, especially after what he was close to playing with at the start of the season. Well, I wouldn't want to make a prediction on.
It seems silly to have him come back after a high ankle sprain in a game where you're a double-digit favorite, which I don't know that Andy Reid will consider, but I mean, I think that might be brought up to him that it's probably not one of the most challenging games on the schedule. I do think that severely impairs the Kansas City offense. Will that matter so much against Denver Broncos defense, however?
Yeah, I mean, I think you and I, we've talked about the Chiefs in general and the perception of the team that is obviously the new dynasty of the NFL. But kind of the pieces that they have in place right now, it's just not clicking. I think we've watched the last 2 weeks with the Jets game, and then last week I was actually expecting more, even though they were very comfortably ahead for most of that game against the Vikings, in my opinion. And so when we're looking at this offense, it obviously always runs through Mahomes. I have enjoyed that they've gotten Pacheco involved a little bit more, but I think that also tells a story of what the identity of this offense might be, because they're still trying to figure out who are their other guys to catch the ball other than Travis Kelce, who, yes, probably is not going to play, but it's scary to just say that on a Tuesday night. So I would expect the same. The Broncos haven't been able to stop the run very much. I would expect another heavy dose of Pacheco. In Thursday night games, we usually see a run-heavy script, sans Chicago Bears last Thursday. And so I think Pacheco is a great option if you're looking for a fantasy guy early in the week to give yourself a boost. And I think they're going to have to ride that with obviously Mahomes' magic on the offensive side, but it's the Broncos who are not going to give up much resistance. We've seen countless quarterbacks carve them up.
Yeah, and the Broncos closed the favorite to the Jets at home. That didn't go very well for them after coming back from 28-7 down to the Bears. I don't really know that there's a lot for me for wanting to back the road underdog here, even if Kelce's not playing. I guess if you're looking at totals, unfortunately, it's already got bet down a fair amount, dropping 3.5 points from what the open resembled, whether that was the actual open or not, just what I'm using as we speak. And so I don't really know where to go with this one necessarily. Do you have any sort of interest in playing this one?
Yeah. 10.5 is probably about right. I don't know. I don't think since I enjoy that we're trying to show where the market's going to go. That hook there is there to entice somebody to take a bite and see if they can maybe get a backdoor cover there. I think we're probably in a pretty similar spot. There's no way that this is going to go below 10, in my opinion. And I'm not in the business of taking a favorite at that price.
Yeah, I guess it's a little interesting that the spread has climbed from 10 to 10.5, and then the the total has dropped 3.5 points. So that's clearly not a very it's not a ringing endorsement for the road team Denver Broncos, and wouldn't be surprising that I potentially would go to the worst game of the Chiefs season at home. But anyway, that's how life goes. That's how my luck goes. Go ahead.
Let me ask you, where do the Broncos find success? I mean, where in what place do you envision the offense finding success?
I wonder if Sean Payton has told Russell Wilson if he doesn't have a 300-yard passing game that he's out. But then again, there's so much money invested in him that's probably not the case. When I look at the Chiefs defense, I've been pretty impressed by it so far this season. Once they got Chris Jones in there, they've been pretty good at restricting the opponent. Javonte Williams maybe comes in. McLaughlin looks pretty good as a potential change of pace who might even take that starting job. So there's a lot of potential young players, talent, things of that nature. Jerry Jeudy's 1 week closer to being healthy. I don't know. I don't really see where it's going to happen. I think this game is probably, I mean, Sean Payton, an offensive coach, but how much does that matter so far this season? I think if you're the Broncos, you go in there and you try to make this as low scoring as possible. Try to get a hit on Pat Mahomes as many times as you can. Patrick, excuse me. Sorry if his family's listening. And then really just doing the best they can to run the clock out, like fake injuries, soccer style, and then hope that all of a sudden they don't have more than a 7-point gap with the ball late, and then they actually score a touchdown and go for 2 or something like that. That's the dream scenario. I don't really envision that happening though.
Yeah, and from the coaching side of things, I had some optimism and I'm with Sean Payton going forward, but there has been some wild decisions that he's made with so far this season that I'm not sure I can say right now, oh, this is a Super Bowl winning coach and he's going to have this franchise going in the right direction.
If only they had Nathaniel Hackett. So I actually was too excited coming on to this podcast to shout out our 6-3-1 record. I forgot to mention, if you're listening on YouTube or watching on YouTube, please hit subscribe for an Apple Podcast or Spotify. Leave a 5-star review. That'd be huge. If you're not on my Patreon yet, or you're not a patron, check out patreon.com/real_G Warner. Best spot to get my picks coming out every night, all day. Whenever I lock something in, whenever I add a write-up, you'll get a notification if you download the app. And then, of course, all lines go to this podcast are courtesy of betonline.ag, my favorite place to get my bets down early, and Andrews too. Reduced juice is offered on almost every game you want to bet right up until game time. Please follow the link found in the podcast description to fund your account and use the promo code GW50 to receive a 50% match bonus up to $1,000. We don't have an AS50 yet, so use GW50. And if you're already a betonline.ag member, you can check out sportsbetting.ag and use the same promo code GW50 for another 50% match of your deposit. So basically you get to play with a bunch of casino dollars and use those. And hopefully that will be your lottery ticket, and you play with our plays and maybe you'll get to 67% just like us. So let's move on. Now that I got the accounting parts out of the way, we'll go to a London matchup at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, which looked like it had artificial turf this weekend, which is a nice thing to see them roll out the carpet, the green carpet as it is. Baltimore, they're visiting, or whatever. I guess everyone's visiting. Baltimore and Tennessee are playing a football match where you use your hands in London. The Ravens opened a 4.5-point favorite that's fallen to 3.5, though it's very juiced right now, probably more like 4 across the market. Total has fallen nowhere. It's actually started open 41 and is still 41. So I guess my big question, I feel like I've been on the Titans bandwagon for a lot of the season. They've been, I thought, very good. Unfortunately fell to a division rival last weekend. But the Baltimore Ravens have been one of the most disappointing teams for me. My best bet last week was the Steelers. Really nice that they pretty much stole a game late, though Baltimore had so many chances to get past it. They had a huge ton of drops on offense. Maybe that idea to start throwing the ball a ton more should have thought about what personnel they have, because it was a pretty bad showing, especially against a game that means so much in that division and really between one of the biggest rivalries in football, and especially in the AFC North. I'll start with Baltimore and wondering, are we concerned that maybe Lamar Jackson and his like playing half of a season to get a good contract might have detracted from that franchise organization and their Super Bowl chances going forward.
Yeah, I think they're still a very much work in progress, just based off of trying to get the whole different offensive system going. As we both know, there were a lot of drops on Sunday. Rashad Bateman dropped a touchdown pass.
Yep.
There were several misplayed balls from the wide receivers. I love it because we've talked about kind of the trends and looking at that Baltimore-Pittsburgh series. It's kind of a different kind of handicap. But I think like if you take the approach back and just look at what the Baltimore offense could be, that's why the market has been high on Baltimore for most of this year. It's interesting to me that we're seeing some resistance. And I'm also curious if it's not playing into the same kind of history. Vrabel, there was a playoff game where he confused and stifled Lamar Jackson and the Ravens about 4 years ago. We know Vrabel's mind. We know that he has the wits to prevent success with this offense. My question though is this personnel good enough to do it? Because what I've seen from them is a team that's not stopping the run, and that's not what we've known from Tennessee going forward, or in the past rather. So I think that's where the market's going. Like, are we betting on the history that Vrabel will have a great game plan, and it gets all weird when you're traveling overseas for a game like this with game day preparation and the week of preparation. Or are we looking at the personnel? Because if I look at the personnel in this matchup, then I would say that this number is short.
Interesting, because I do think there's a significant impact in traveling overseas to London. The Jaguars, the London Jags, have figured it out. A lot of the other teams don't seem like they have. So it's a little bit interesting for me to see a substantial favorite to me above a field goal is what I will call that, especially on a neutral field. I don't know that I've had great success in London, unfortunately, over the years, backing these road teams, or I guess they're all road teams, but the underdogs, even thinking I'm getting a field goal, that's too much. I remember really a lot of bad performances and experiences and being like, why did I wake up at this hour? But now I wake up for soccer, so it doesn't matter. But regardless, my question, do we think Baltimore's awesome run offense, which certainly suffers running back injuries more than almost anyone in the world, which makes me wonder if they're a little bit more likely to rest players when they're injured, though it do always seem to be pretty severe injuries. Do we consider this Baltimore rushing offense to be as talented or as scary? Because I can't call them dominant, but scary as they have been in the past to exploit that Tennessee run defense weakness.
I mean, Zach Moss, hey, he's a good player, but what he was able to do, those were explosive runs against the Titans. I haven't seen that in so long. So that's tough to answer.
Do you think the Ravens, if Zach Moss could do it, then the Ravens
should be able to do it, right?
Because the Ravens, and I guess we'll probably spend a fair amount of time on this because I think we've done fairly well with time in the last few episodes. Lamar Jackson, to me, has always been a big threat with his legs and has worked on the passing portion of it. I'm not clued into every Ravens game, but to me, I feel like he doesn't seem to run the same way he used to. I think when he was trying to earn that contract, I don't know if that's a him thing, why they're potentially moving to a more passing based offense, but and then when he's not a big threat in like a pistol type of QB choice option type offense, college style that's in the pros and one of the few that actually works, it feels like the Ravens running back or rushing situation is a lot more average if you don't have to also account for the quarterback running as much. Certainly very scary with the scramble drill and things of that nature, but I just don't feel like that's a portion of their offense. On the Tennessee side, I mean, I don't know what they're doing with Derrick Henry. It seems like he's playing a lot less snaps now, maybe saving him for Derrick Henry season in December or something like that. But I think Vrabel is one of those things we cannot discount because that will always be the case when you've proven that you're a capable coach in the NFL and you continue to do so. I don't see that falling off. So I feel like this is really all about the Ravens. I mean, scoring 10 points against Pittsburgh. Yes, Pittsburgh has a decent defense, rushes the passer well. But 10 points is not enough in an NFL game against the 85 Bears. Let's put it that way. So, yes, they'll probably be pretty motivated to bounce back off that tough loss. But with this spread right now, especially if we're giving it a 4, because it seems to be where it is most places when it's not heavily juiced, the Ravens side, I mean, that's still requiring, I mean, a 3-point Justin Tucker field goal at the bell will not cover the spread there, and will be a huge situation for the Titans. So I'm not really afraid of the Titans right now, or excuse me, I'm not really afraid of the Ravens. And so surprise, but your boy's looking at the Titans.
Vrabel is an underdog. We've talked about it so much. How can you ignore that?
Yeah, I'm gonna really hope I oversleep on Sunday, because considering my London record. Okay, we'll go to Sunday Night Football, then we'll do Monday night, and we'll go to our top picks to fill out the 6-pack, because we don't want to short anybody a beer or two. So we'll go to the Giants visiting Buffalo, a true New York, New Jersey battle. With Daniel Jones up in the air, but I'm not sure how much that's impacted things. Maybe a little bit. Looks like the Bills open a -12-point favorite at home. That's climbed to 14. The total has dropped from 48 to 44.5, which, I mean, to me, Tyrod isn't a huge step down from Daniel Jones. I guess he's a little bit less athletic, which is a little bit surprising to think, but and Tyrod honestly has had some decent upsets that he's pulled in his career. Now the Bills coming back from London and probably has an impact on this one, plus not playing very well and losing to the London Jags. What do we think? Because I mean, the Bills on American soil, besides that opener in a weird like first game of the season, they've throttled teams, including the Dolphins. They've seen to win all their games by double digits and more like 3 touchdowns closer than 2 touchdowns. So what do we see as Buffalo's, or what are your concerns about Buffalo in this one? Because I know they're a very popular survivor pick as well this week.
Oh yeah, they're going to be. I'm sure they'll be the number 1 pick this week. Let's talk a little bit about the coaching matchup here, because we've got previous Bills offensive coordinator going up against Sean McDermott.
Your boy, you love Sean McDermott.
Although
I used to love Brian Daboll. I used to love Brian Daboll. I don't know how to.
Hey, don't get off. Don't. This year is it's abysmal. But don't get off the bandwagon. Just we gotta have some faith.
Okay. All right. So personnel decisions 14. Is that
put them back?
Is that what's
no. The Bills obviously going overseas in the Jacksonville game, like it feels like an anomaly. It feels like an outlier, because Jacksonville really was the home team in that situation. They stayed over there.
Yep.
They were comfortable. And what is that? Like a 6-hour flight, 7-hour flight?
Probably. Yeah.
It's these guys are flying in luxury jets. And so that's kind of like, sometimes I dismiss that notion. It's like they have the most comfortable situations out of anybody. So I'm not always worried about the travel, but the time change does make a difference. And so I'm not putting a lot of weight into last week, but so I would expect the Bills to bounce back, and especially going to bounce back against a team that is completely depleted on the offensive line. Daniel Jones, I give it a 25% chance. Like a neck injury is the scary thing. Any injury is awful and scary. But when you've committed that kind of money to this guy, I have a hard time thinking they're going to put him back out there just 1 week after that.
Are you sure they don't want him to get hurt so they can claim that insurance money?
That's mean.
Okay. Sorry.
I can't get that juju on me. Not bad juju.
That Juju Smith-Schuster, he's really killing it so far.
It all fits. It all fits right there. Like the Giants' offensive line, I still think is the core of the problem. There's just not a lot of skill player there either. We could just keep going down the list, actually. True.
Since I've been listening to this podcast and as a part of it this whole season, you have been pretty bullish on the Buffalo pass rush as well. So that makes me think that the Giants are going to have some trouble, even if Tyrod is in there and is playing his Houdini act like he did this past game after he came in for the injured Daniel Jones. That doesn't really seem like a good matchup for me. And honestly, while it might mean that the Giants don't really put up many points, that does make me think that there's probably a much higher turnover risk and that there's going to be a lot of short fields for Buffalo. They've shown no remorse for beating the you-know-what out of carcasses so far this season. So it almost feels like to me the Buffalo side seems a little short. The total seems high, but also could get there considering Buffalo might just name their price here.
Yeah, I think with the turnovers, that's the great unknown with totals. If you're getting turnovers in short fields, then that total is going to go sky high. I do think it's worth monitoring with the Bills pass rush. They're starting to take on some injuries. Matt Milano is out.
Yeah.
Ed Oliver got nicked up in the game against Jacksonville.
So did Daquan.
That's right. And Von Miller is not Von Miller yet. So we'll see what that depth is made of right there, because 2 weeks ago I absolutely loved it, but now the whole deck of cards has changed because they've lost 3 key contributors in the last 2 weeks. Again, it might be something that you and I exploit later on this season. Maybe not Sunday night.
Yeah, we'll see if the Buffalo Bills practice squad is able to beat up the New York Giants starting offensive line, which doesn't seem to be much better than that. Moving to Monday, we have Dallas Cowboys visiting the Los Angeles Chargers. Chargers coming off a bye. Dallas probably thought they were having a bye because they didn't exactly show up for that San Francisco game. That was a nice best bet winner to close out our 2-0 week by _SCHNITKER on Twitter. If you're not following him yet, go throw him one. For this little game over here, I expect a pretty big Dallas crowd. Well, I'll get into the number. Dallas is open a 2.5 point favorite with a total of 46.5. They are down to just 2 with a total that's climbed to 50.5. So the marketplace early market is like, wow, the Chargers got a whole week off to really try to get like their 4 fans into the stadium. And that's going to make an impact and really drop this line from 2.5 to 2, or everyone just overreacting to a Dallas poor performance on the road at what was the second most likely team to win the Super Bowl in the NFC, I think, behind Philadelphia. So that feels like a little bit of what?
I'd put them number 1 in the NFC now.
Well, Jalen Hurts, that former running back turned quarterback, has something to say about that. But I don't know, from a Chargers point of view, and really kind of my theory on a lot of these West Coast teams in LA and in Las Vegas, their home field advantages are just non-existent. And they're really, especially with big fan bases like the Cowboys, who have the America's team moniker and ultimately has more fair weather fans than probably anybody. It's hard for me to see the Chargers being worth it on using a silent count at home against a pretty good Dallas pass rush. But then we also got to think about it. Like, Dallas hasn't really performed very well. Their defense has certainly not been as good without after the Diggs injury. This is a chance for them to get right, but ultimately Mike McCarthy's calling plays, and I think that limits them a little bit.
Yeah, this we can keep going back to why we liked the 49ers so much, and it's because I have an immense amount of concern of who is calling the plays on the Cowboys offense and what they're trying to accomplish. That the guy that left that gave the Cowboys offense their pop is now going to be on the other sideline or in the other booth, and Kellen Moore. And so I don't want to discredit that angle to it. And it's worth exploring when you're deciding if you want to invest in this game, who's got the edge there. Kellen Moore is familiar with Dan Quinn's defense, and he's a guy that's going to try to take the top off of every defense. Can they withstand the pass rush that the Cowboys have? And again, like, the 49ers are a different beast. Their coaching staff, the way that they're prepared for that game is not necessarily going to be the case every single Sunday. So it's really going to matter if the Chargers are going to be able to protect Herbert and give him time to go deep and test out the Cowboys secondary without Trevon Diggs. And I'm not totally selling on the Cowboys secondary either. But on the other side, Dan Quinn knows exactly what Kellen Moore likes to do as well. And so who's got the edge there? It probably comes down to who's got the better talent. And so, yeah, it's tough to discredit the Cowboys pass rush, and especially after last week, I do think that will make a difference.
I just haven't been hearing the name Chandler Parsons much in this sport, you know?
Micah Parsons.
Yes,
Chandler.
exactly. I've
Ooh,
already
wait,
made
what are you trying? Did I miss the joke?
I've made the mistake like 4 times on our 5 or 6 episodes so far this season, so I figured I'd just keep going with it.
That's the
But
thing. I
yes,
forgot. I move on. You know what? I don't hold mistakes against you.
I'm glad my co-host ignores the limitations of the other co-host, but I appreciate that. Mike Parsons, I just haven't heard the name very much. I mean, yes, he's been a little bit dinged up. He seems to be kind of limping from time to time. Maybe it's because he doesn't have an awesome secondary behind him that he's able to rush the passer and have a little bit more time to get in or get home. I feel like road favorites are not really something for me, but this doesn't feel like a road game. It feels like neutral at worst for the cows, I almost said, as I've lived in Dallas and everyone seems to call them the cows. I used to figure they'd call them the boys, but I guess that's another debate.
I call them the cows.
Yeah, you're not alone. A lot of people seem to. So I guess I'm going to start doing that as well. Or maybe I'll just stay in my own lane, call them the boys, and no one will know what I'm talking about. But regardless, I feel like I don't really know what to do with this one because Dallas probably has a bounce back. Certainly has a bounce back opportunity here, but probably is fairly motivated. Imagine are staying out west if they instead of coming back to Dallas. If you have San Francisco, then the Chargers on then again a pretty big gap to Monday night from Sunday night. But regardless, I would expect them to be out west. That might make them focused. It also might mean that they're a little bit out of their rhythm a little bit more. It's really tough for me to back the Chargers. So before we get into best bets, we'll go through our last 2 of our 6-pack. I'm going to start with my biggest game of interest, which I know everyone is dying to talk about. It's the New England Patriots visiting the Las Vegas Raiders. Raiders coming off Monday Night Football game, which they trailed for a little while in the third quarter, but led for a lot of the first half, and then ultimately got a big interception at the end. Not a lot of pretty football. A lot of questions. What do we think about? So I'll get to the number first, then I'll ask some questions. The Raiders are they open 1.5 point favorites at home with a total of 42.5. That total has dropped to 41, probably because the Patriots have scored 3 points in the last 2 weeks. One of them I was in attendance for and didn't feel like they were even going to get the 3. The spread has climbed to 3 though. So the Vegas Raiders have moved from -1.5 to -3, very juiced at the moment at BetOnline. Do we think it's going to get to 3.5? Do we think it settles 3? And then I'd love to know your opinions on the one and only Jimmy Subway Garoppolo.
There are some sickos out there. I think this is going to close below 3.
I
think
sickos.
People are not going to be able to quit the idea of what the Patriots were and not what they are.
We're talking like when Tom Brady was there in 2004, basically. Yeah. Everyone still believes that Bill Belichick's coming back instead of the one that everyone's talking about with like multiple Patriots on all the different various, like Gronkowski saying, yeah, if they go 4-13, he's out. And then Devin McCourty being like, I don't know who this guy is anymore.
I don't put the blame on Belichick. I mean, I guess I could.
Okay, yeah, not on the GM or the head coach.
Okay,
or the guy that put his son in charge of calling plays on defense. Sure.
Oh, that was atrocious. Yeah, it's not all on him. Okay. But yes, the personnel side of it is a disaster.
Who does the personnel? Just
I know.
Okay. I'll let it go.
So I'm so mad that you picked this game. When we talked to it, I was like, why?
I think it's worth talking about because
it is, but like we also can talk about the coaching matchup there. We can talk about so how are the Patriots going to have success? They'll be able to run the football. Everyone can run the football against the Raiders. Like AJ Dillon ran the football against the Raiders.
Big test here. Do we Ramondre Stevenson, what's he gonna get? 42 yards?
And he has to hold on to the football. There's no receiver that's like really worth discussing for the Patriots. Maybe I should say it's not Mac Jones's fault.
Oh yeah.
He's getting pulled at halftime or every time, and it's not his fault. Yeah, the defense has lost a lot of its key pieces. They brought in J.C. Jackson, who had some magic for him a couple of years ago before he left for the Chargers, and then they're like, no, we'll take him back. So he should know the system if we're gonna try to grasp at straws. the Oakland the Oakland Las Vegas
Nice.
offense.
-1 for you. Ha
Yeah.
ha ha.
Garoppolo was okay Monday night. He was fine. But what I'm like, Josh Jacobs went out and in a contract year. That's all, that's always another key, looking for those players that have the contract year and then what happens after. Like they're not able to run the ball either. And no one else in that backfield is getting a shot. So no Zamir White, no nothing. I do think we've got to talk about Josh McDaniels against Belichick, right? Like this is protege against the mentor.
Yeah.
And I think I'd take Belichick in that matchup.
It usually goes that way, where the teacher usually beats the student. But the teacher usually scored more than 3 points in the last two weeks combined. Plus we're probably need a lot of bizarre field goal decisions from Josh McDaniels here, which does potentially impact the total, which might be honestly more interesting here. Under 41, pretty low total, but I think it's exactly what the New England Dallas game ended, is 38-3 final. So, and I don't really know, like, if we don't think that the Raiders can stop the run, I'm not sure the Patriots can run. I don't really know, because we haven't seen Josh Jacobs get any sort of reasonable yardage or yards per carry. It feels like there's not a lot of offense this one. We saw 30 points on Monday night, potentially a shorter week for the Vegas Raiders. And in that home Roomba stadium, I just don't even know that the Patriots, like, considering how bad this has been, like, I was just at a bachelor party with 1 million Pats fans who would be like, we knew this was going to be a bad season anyway, which I don't think they really believed. But if you like, or debating, should I still go to Vegas for this trip? You'd probably be like, no, it's not even worth it. Yeah. So to me, dead stadium, dead coaches, dead offensive lines, and really not a lot that interests me. So I'll leave it there and save everyone else a little bit more time. But I mean, I guess I'm interested in the Vegas Raiders -3. You think it's going to fall potentially below 3 rather than climbing above. I think I probably agree with you, especially because we've already seen 1.5 points of movement, though they're not the most expensive ones to move through, as they're below 3 points. I'm curious, because the higher this gets, the more interested I am in New England. If this falls, the more interested I am in the Vegas Raiders and paying to see the Pats do anything offensively. So I think that also makes me like under 41. So your game that you wanted to go through, go ahead.
Yeah, let's go to the Browns and the San Francisco 49ers. San Francisco going across the country. Early kick, Deshaun Watson questions. Browns are a 6-point underdog. 49ers obviously coming off that massive win against the Cowboys. Browns off a bye. And we've got a total in the basement, over under 37.5. How about that?
Yeah, it's dropped from 41.5. Opener was -3. So it's climbed to -6, which I think is a lot of based on the Dallas performance. Is there potentially some issues with Deshaun Watson, though, because he didn't play a couple weeks ago, came into the bye. There were rumors that he could have played. I'm surprised that he didn't, but they basically punted a game in the division, which seemed very weird to me. But yeah. Spread has climbed, certainly based on a San Francisco performance, but also I wonder if there's a little bit of concern about Deshaun Watson playing, because it looked like his backup was not capable.
No, Dorian Thompson-Robinson is a rookie that's not ready for that spot. I think let's talk about the total real quick. Looks to, at this point in the week, there looks to be some weather potentially in Cleveland. Okay. 18 to 20 mile an hour wind gusts. As you know, I always look at wind speed.
Big
when
wind
I'm looking
guy.
at total. Big wind guys. Well, yeah. Cleveland, you cannot ignore it in Cleveland.
Like a mistake by the lake. Sorry to all the Cleveland listeners, but we also have very high precipitation. But it's also been dropping, and it'd probably be pretty low during the actual game. Keep going.
So I think what you're seeing, though, is like some prospecting. Like, okay, there's potentially weather. Let's take this under now, and then see if the weather forecast clears up, and then we'll figure out what to do with it after that. So probably a bit of a numbers grab early in the week. Brock Purdy is, again, the superlatives, I cannot keep heaping him on him. What I'm interested to see, though, is how he responds after a 4-touchdown game, and how he responds to what could be his toughest test pass rush wise. And yeah, I know he just played the Cowboys, but I love the Browns defensive line, and I love how they get after the quarterback with not a lot of dudes coming at you. And so I do think it makes a difference for him. if they get some pressure in his face. On the other side, yes, we gotta wonder about Deshaun Watson. I feel confident. I feel good, like he's going to play. With the bye week and how close they made it seem in reports, I think he's going to play. But again, with the weather, it's going to be an equalizer. Like, you don't have Nick Chubb back there. We know they want to run the ball. Both teams want to run the ball. So it's going to be one of those. If the rain holds up, it'll be one of those fun, sloppy games where we're going to have strength on strength and see which running game is the strongest.
Last thing before we get to our best bets, I'm curious about the Cleveland pass rush or defensive line and how much pressure they can create on San Francisco, because to me, that's going to be the deciding factor. Because if you can't get pressure, if Cleveland, who has such a great D-line, can't do that, then San Francisco should be able to score plenty of points, and it makes that 37.5 look very low for a total. What do you think about that matchup?
Yeah, I think that is the key. And this is, I mean, he's going on the road. Like, Purdy is not, how many games has he started now? This has got to be what, like 9 or 10 games total?
I mean, you can't mess with perfection.
Like,
he's been a perfect guy, perfect person, great off the field, probably like saves a lot of endangered species or something in his off time. And I think we're probably out of time. So let's go into our best bets. I'll let you lead us off. 2-0 last week. And if you're on YouTube, please hit subscribe. If you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please leave a 5-star review. It'd be huge to get us up to search rankings. So let's go. 2-0 last week. Andrew Schnicker, lead us off.
Okay. Well, we're going to go to a matchup with the team that was the favorite coming into the season in the NFC South, the New Orleans Saints.
Ooh.
-1. So it's a short road favorite. I know I don't want to hear the joke about Derek Carr on the road, because they're in a dome. They're going to be playing in Houston. So no issues there with the elements or anything else. I really have enjoyed watching Houston develop over the last couple of weeks. CJ Stroud is the best quarterback from the rookie class. But I like this Saints veteran defense, and I like what Dennis Allen can cook up to confuse a rookie quarterback. He did it to Bryce Young, albeit with less talent on that team. So let's go with the Saints on the road. Short favorite, but get it at -1 before it gets any higher.
So this is Betting the Pitch NFL edition. Andrew Schnicker, _SCHNITKER on Twitter, has given you a road favorite, a very, very short one, though. The New Orleans Saints -1 at Houston. Just had to put it out there. Yeah. For my best bet, the real _G Warner on Twitter, Instagram, Patreon, I'm going to go with the Seattle Seahawks, a 3-point underdog on the road at Cincinnati. I am not sure that I don't love the body clock early start, but I'm still not a believer that Joe Burrow is healthy. I don't think one performance in Arizona against the Cardinals, who are expected to be the one pick, the first overall pick entering the season, I'm still not a believer. I don't think T. Higgins is back for this matchup. I think that impacts the ability and the options for Joe Burrow, who still hasn't looked like he can do anything mobily or can't move. And Joe Mixon just runs into the center of lines for 2 yards, and that's about it. So I'm going to go with Seattle +3. You take Andrew Schnicker's New Orleans Saints -1. We went 2-0 last week. We're 6-3-1 on the podcast this season, and looking forward to increase our profits and your profits as well. So that'll do it for this episode, Betting the Pitch. I'm your host, the real _G Warner. He is Andrew Schnicker, _SCHNITKER. If you're listening on YouTube, hit subscribe. If you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, leave a 5-star review. That's huge. And if you're not a Patreon member yet, go become a patron, patreon.com/thereal_G Warner. We will be back on Tuesday next week with some more winners, and hopefully we can celebrate another 2-0. Thanks for listening, and tell your friends. We'll be out here Tuesday nights until the listeners and viewers stop.